Booming auto sales leading into the mid-1960s fueled a huge surge in the number of cars on our nation's highways. As a result, concerned transportation authorities commissioned studies which predicted a grim future, especially for urban traffic. Intractable traffic jams as far as the eye could see. Maybe not so far from the truth. And so the race was on to develop a transportation system to slay this urban traffic dragon and ensure rapid, effortless, and comfortable commuting for America's citizens of the future. In 1972, the Urban Mass Transportation Administration, now the Federal Transit Administration, selected Grumman Aerospace Corporation, Garrett Corporation, and Rohr Industries, Inc. as competing candidates to develop the best solution. Rohr Industries had licensed the hovercraft and linear induction motor technologies from a French engineer named Jean Bertin as their entry into the competition. Bertin's model was essentially ready to go, while Grumman and Garrett were both still in the design phases, giving Rohr a bit of an advantage. They called it an Aerotrain. We're calling it the Rohr. The marketers touted it as the modern way to travel, the best way to fly to New York. And look how clear the roads are. The Rohr was 94 feet long and 10.5 feet wide. Empty, it weighed 46,000 pounds and had a 14,000 pound load capacity for passengers and luggage. It was sleek and aerodynamic, designed to reach speeds of up to 150 miles an hour. It had a 60-passenger capacity, with seats that looked more like those in an airliner than those in a train, complete with seat belts. The passenger cabin's design and colors were obviously dictated by the ultra-modern fashions of the day. The Rohr was entirely electrical. Its linear induction motor propelled it along a thin, aluminum 30-inch high reaction rail, and it glided on a nearly friction-free cushion of air contained by that black skirt underneath the car itself. It got its power for the induction motor and the air compressors from a 3-bar side rail. Power pickup arms, mounted just after the rear cargo doors, slid along that rail, providing a continuous 2,000 kilowatts of power. Although the Rohr was designed to run completely automatically, there was a pilot. His area was filled with a dazzling array of meters, lights, and switches, and his job was mostly just to monitor them. You might have noticed that there was no windshield for the pilot. Not to worry. A camera, built into the nose of the vehicle, fed a video signal to a TV monitor perched atop the console. In the event that that failed, there was a handy, ordinary tube and mirror, non-electrical periscope for just such emergencies. Making it go forward at 150 miles an hour is one thing, but how do you stop it? There was a 3-part system designed to make sure that the Rohr stopped in time. First, the induction motor itself slowed the car down to about 20 miles an hour. Then a graphite friction brake grabbed the reaction rail, hopefully to complete the job smoothly. And if the first 2 steps failed, the pilot could vent the air cushions, set the Rohr down on its skids, and stop pretty quickly. Perhaps this explains the seat belts. Rohr Industries completed the construction and preliminary testing on their Aerotrain around 1975. At that point, they shipped the one and only prototype from their Chula Vista, California facility to the Department of Transportation's test site in Pueblo, Colorado. A team of photogenic test engineers welcomed it with open arms. Test site operations proved that the Rohr would work beautifully for its purpose. But insurmountable problems such as much greater than expected power requirements, rail construction costs, unexpected damage to components, and more brought the Rohr, a successful failure, to its knees in less than 2 years. Ownership of the train was transferred to the city of Pueblo, and it was moved to Pueblo's Weisbrod Aircraft Museum sometime around 1977. There it remained, virtually unmaintained and ignored for over 30 years. But on November 24, 2008, after several years of negotiations and wrangling, ownership of the Rohr was finally and officially transferred from the city to the Pueblo Railway Foundation. On July 14, 2009, they moved it nearly 8 miles to its final resting place at the Pueblo Railway Museum in downtown Pueblo, where it awaits an affectionate and painstaking restoration. Following is how that all came about. So how do you lift a thing like this without breaking it? At first, we didn't know the answer to that question. Obviously, it had been lifted and moved before, but using a gantry crane to move the Rohr 8 miles into Pueblo didn't seem practical. And what were the crane's cables attached to? There were no obvious lifting points on the Rohr. Fortunately, stored inside the Rohr for the past 30 years or so were a number of boxes filled with all kinds of paperwork, including plans and specifications for 4 lift brackets and information on how to make them work. Vince, Mike, and Jim Danderan quickly set to work fabricating these brackets exactly according to the specifications discovered on board. The ability to lift the Rohr at all hinges around this, a steel cone which can be inserted and bolted into any of 4 surprisingly small holes, or lift points, in the Rohr. There are 2 on each side, fore and aft. These cones are welded onto steel cradle-like brackets, each of which is unique, its angles and specifications designed for only one of the lift points. The brackets are designed to allow hoisting from above by crane or lifting from below by jack. We will be using jacks. Here's a look at the manufacturing process of the entire bracket. After they were assembled, the lift brackets were trucked to a location where they were evenly tempered to remove localized internal stresses caused by the welding. They were given a paint job to match the Rohrs, and a test lift using small bottle jacks is attempted. Brackets are carefully mounted onto the Rohr. The triangular item is a jig designed to run through the crane hook flanges, and the bottle jacks are placed under each side of the jig for the test lift. Couple of inches, it's a success. Finally, the real thing. In the end, the brackets performed perfectly. Moving something like the Rohr takes real professionals, experience, and specialized equipment. Rocky Mountain Structural Movers of Parker, Colorado were just what was needed. Their experience with moving houses, churches, and a train depot, sometimes in very constricted conditions, made them the logical choice for moving the Rohr on busy city streets. Owner Bill Davis describes his equipment at his Parker facility.
And there's our jacking machine, which you can run. It's got 12 ports. And then you can Y off and run 24 jacks, and that's when we lifted the train depot. That's what we did. We had the 24 jacks. So that little pump there will pick 1 million pounds. We got these jacks here, which these jacks they weigh 32 pounds. They're aluminum. They're spring loaded inside. They retract. They'll pick 55,000 or 55 tons, so 110,000 per jack.
And it all runs off of that little...
Yeah, and then I've got these here, which are our crib jacks. They're adjustable, and they'll only pick 15, but you put them in, you put them in multiples, and it's pretty amazing the stability and the lift that you can get out of it, all of it. And that's actually, I use these to pick that train depot. It's sitting over by the railroad tracks now, just looking beautiful.
Because of the long nose of the Rohr, they fabricated a special pull bar to span the distance from the forwardmost dollies to the tractor itself. Finally, the new pull bar is delicately added to the truck's load. With everything assembled, fabrications complete, equipment checked and loaded, it's time to head to Pueblo, about 100 miles away. After an 11:30 a.m. start and a couple of delays on the road, Bill, his crew, and the equipment trucks arrive at the Pueblo Community Airport property around 7:30 p.m. The real work starts tomorrow. The mission at this phase is to lift the entire train high enough to allow 4 8-wheel dollies to be rolled under it. It's about 29 inches.
Next time it opens is when we're at the other end.
The process is slow and painstaking. Each of the jacks has a lifting distance of only about 8 inches, so it's necessary to build a wooden crib, lift the Rohr as far as possible with the jacks, and then support the Rohr at that level while the jack cribs are built back up for the next lift, and so on. A few woodland creatures unfortunately had to be evicted for this process. Lifting the Rohr and setting the dollies took about 3 days. We've reduced it here to about 3 minutes. Note as we move along how the jack cribs keep getting higher. A steel I-beam is positioned which will span the distance between the dollies and evenly support the Rohr without pressure points. At long last, the Rohr is ready to roll. And so, after nearly 33 stationary years, on July 14, 2009, the Rohr moved again. The dollies need to be turned manually for sharp corners. Each pair of dollies is connected by a tie bar, and the bar is forced left and right, turning the wheels together. Depending on the circumstances, something more than come-alongs are needed to finish the job. The ever-useful forklift steps in here to steer the dollies. One final step stands in the way of towing it to its final resting place. Turn it around. The tractor is connected to the back. It needs to be towed from the front. The concept is simple. Get it lined up on the street, rotate the dollies 180 degrees, drive the tractor around, hook up, and go. It took 2 hours. There's a small wooden box mounted on the tractor which contains more than a ton of scrap iron. Without the extra weight, the tractor would simply chatter and spin its tires in place, like that. Oh, it's enough weight. It's just that he's trying to pull the Rohr up over a curb and there's a bit of resistance. After about 2 hours of juggling, the Rohr is finally aimed in the right direction and we are rolling. So come on along, follow us to 330 D Street. It's an interesting trip. We'll be accompanied by crickets and one squeaky wheel. First, it's south on Skyway, then right on United Avenue. Now west on United to Paul Harvey Boulevard. South on Paul Harvey to Highway 50. We're off the airport. The overpass was a bit of a squeeze, but it was fortunate that somebody had the foresight to measure it before trying to go under it. Highway 50 for a few miles. The left turn from Highway 50 onto 4th Street was a fairly tight one. It took a few minutes to negotiate. The long stretch down 4th Street through its residential neighborhoods created quite a stir, raising a few eyebrows not only among fellow traffic, but also among bystanders.
I don't know what it is. What is it?
That was a plane coming by. That crashed, I think.
Well, no. And now from 4th Street south onto Santa Fe, right in the heart of Pueblo. Traffic, such as it is, flows again on Santa Fe as we turn right onto Elizabeth Street. A short jog on Main Street, a final turn onto the much narrower D Street, and we're home. Well, almost. A little more work to be done. Bill Davis, who engineered the entire process and also drove the truck, predicted that the move would take about 2 hours. In fact, the Rohr was at 330 D Street in a little over an hour and a half. As one of the local news outlets said,
despite help from police, it took them 2 hours to move the Aerotrain.
In fact, the Pueblo Police Department was very helpful, keeping the traffic at bay and ensuring the safety of the onlookers. Well, now the only thing left to do is reverse everything that was done at the airport. turn all the dollies around so that the Rohr can be pulled from the back again, navigate the entrance gate at a very low angle, and lower the Rohr to its new home at the Pueblo Railway Museum. The Rohr is completely inside the gate now. All that are needed are a nudge from the side to center it side to side over its pad, and in the last effort in the move, pulled forward and lowered into its final resting place. The lowering process is exactly the reverse of the lifting process, though not nearly as slow. This time, the crib heights and jacks are sequentially reduced until the train is resting comfortably on the ground. So the Rohr is home now, placed with almost uncanny pinpoint precision by the magicians of Rocky Mountain structural movers, on its new 15 by 100 foot pad at the Pueblo Railway Museum, reunited with a section of its aluminum monorail. There, it's enjoying its first shade in over 33 years. This film was made in 2009, and soon a complete restoration project begins.
Fix it up to where people can go in and see a bygone era of a high-speed train that looks like something from outer space.